All right. All right. Okay. Cool. So we are live on Twitch. We are live on YouTube. Fantastic. Okay, so that's that. We're live there. We gotta go live on TikTok. We gotta post on TikTok too. It's a sand creature.
You didn't know it, but I am a fiddle player too. And if you care to take a dare, I'll make a bet. Now you played pretty good fiddle, boy, but give the devil his due. I bet a fiddle of gold against
All right.
better.
Ayo, Voidless Void! Thank you so much. Void, okay, Void, I'm trying a new overlay. I got a brand new webcam. We're gonna be building Helga. Void, thank you so much for coming in. You're a little bit early. I'm gonna be ready to start in a minute or two. Thank you so much for being here. Void, can you hear me okay? Does everything look alright? Can you hear me okay? Is my question. We're trying new overlays. We got a new camera set up and everything. Alright, did that thing post? Okay, post it on TikTok to let people know we're live. Okay. Thank you, Void. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you made the jump to hang out with me on Twitch. I really appreciate you. Okay, so we posted there, posted it on the gram. I have to now try all these other apps now that TikTok is going away. I am now an Instagram person, and I hate every second of it. Okay. So we posted there, posted there. We're gonna do Lemonade too. We're also gonna try Lemonade. Alright, next. Post that here. Next. Do I even have my link tree on Lemon? I don't know. I don't have time to check. Fantastic. Okay. Good enough. We're gonna select a frame. I made a silly video with my new overlays to advertise this live because I finally got like the crispy. I know what the fuck. What the fuck is Lemonade is valid. Honestly, Lemonade is a social media that is trying to replace TikTok. Rip Pull Repeat suggested it to me. Also, Void, between you and me, well, not really. I'm gonna tell everybody. Rip Pull Repeat is my content rival. It's a friendly rivalry. Me and him are friends, but he is whooping my ass on every platform. But I'm like 6 followers behind him on Twitch, and we're both at under 100. So my personal goal is to dominate Rip Pull Repeat on Twitch. That's my new content creator goal. It used to be to get 10,000 TikTok followers, but now it's just to beat Rip Pull Repeat at Twitch. Bam. Next. Alright, we posted on Lemonade. We gotta check that TikTok post in the first 10 minutes. I'm so glad. So TikTok has a thing where it rewards your posts if you interact with them during the first 10 minutes of them posting, and then it sends it to more people. Damn, that guy's got a nice beard. Okay, fantastic. Great. And now we're gonna go live on TikTok so we can tell everybody to get on over to Twitch. Hell yeah, I know you can do it. I know I can do it too. Hopefully. Hopefully. I'm the only person I know doing this nonsense. So, there's that. You know, okay. Alright. Music is on. We're live on TikTok. We're live on Twitch. We're live on YouTube. Okay, fantastic. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Bigger Gayer Magic, and tonight we're building Helga Skittish Seer. I'm going to point in both directions. TikTok season on my right, Twitch season on my left. If you want to see the crispy new fancy camera and the green screen effects, please head on over to Twitch, my TikTok friends. Our commander tonight is a 3-drop. It's a frog druid. It's Bant colors. It's a 1/3, and it has 2 abilities. The first one is a triggered ability that says whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card, you gain 1 life, and you put a +1/+1 counter on Helga. You want to put a bunch of counters on Helga, because Helga says, tap, add mana of any 1 color where X is Helga's power. Spend it only to cast creature spells with mana value 4 or greater. So then you can keep getting her trigger. This thing's great. Or if they have X in their casting cost, you can also use the Helga mana form. Oh my god, hello everyone on TikTok. Everyone on TikTok, if you want to see the new, head on over to Twitch because that platform's not getting banned. I appreciate y'all. If you guys would like to suggest some cards for our Helga Skittish Seer deck, please put them in the comments. They'll be put in a Moxfield deck list if I talk about them, and with a dated stamp so you know which one you contributed to. And if you want to suggest commanders for live deck decks, we are doing a poll in the Discord to figure out what commander we're going to play tomorrow. So if you want to check that out, the Discord is also in the link tree. Let's see. Live deck building is my favorite part. Thank you, Void. Void says live deck building is their favorite part of the week. Thank you, Void. I appreciate you a lot. All right. Justin Newell on TikTok says a Vault-born Tyrant. Let's pull up a Vault-born Tyrant. Vault-born Tyrant. Miss me, I can tell you, miss me, I can. All right, this thing came out in Thunder Junction. It's $43. It's a 7-mana green dinosaur. And it says, when this thing or another creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under our control, you gain 3 life and you draw yourself a card. When this thing dies, if it's not a token, you create a token that's a copy of it, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. So this thing is great to kill. You can make that spicy token. You can probably find a way to double up some artifact tokens. That trigger, though, whenever things enter a power of 3 or greater, 4 or greater, you get to draw yourself a card. That's amazing. You also gain 3 life on every ETB. This thing is really, really good. $43 though. It was part of the big score sheet from Thunder Junction, which is just a way to print rares, I guess. It's a vibe. It's $43, which puts it firmly in proxy territory for me, y'all. Cool suggestion, though. Easily a great creature. Honestly, a great creature in any deck where you just slam it down a bunch of powerful creatures. I'll put in the first Sword of Hours. Void over on Twitch says a Sword of Hours. Sword of Hours. I put Void of Hours. Sword of Hours. Sword of Hours. Okay. Sword of Hours is a 2-mana colorless equipment that says whenever the equipped creature attacks, we put a +1/+1 counter on it. And whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, we roll a d12. First step, find a d12. And then, if the result is greater than the damage dealt, or the result is 12, double the number of +1/+1 counters on that creature. That's really cool. Okay, so I imagine what we could do with this sword right here is we could put the sword onto our girl Helga right here. That way, we can slam more counters onto Helga by attacking with it early on in the late game. Early on in the early game, not the late game. Very cool. It's a great way to slam some counters on a creature, especially a creature that wants to be attacking. Very cool suggestion, Void. I appreciate it. Ethan! Thank you so much for stopping by, Ethan. If you guys are watching us on TikTok, if you want to see the new crispy webcam I got, I've never been crisper on TikTok. I mean, I've never been crisper ever, because I just got a new webcam and we're using it to stream on Twitch. If you want to check out the new green screen overlays, head on over to Twitch. Voidless Void says a Power Fist. Let's pull up a Power Fist. Is this from Fallout? Power Fist is from Fallout. It's $12. It's a 2-mana green artifact equipment with equip 2. So we got a mana investment of 4 before we get this thing's effect. And its effect gives the creature trample. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you put that many +1/+1 counters on it. This is another excellent way to slam down counters on a creature that wants to be attacking. It's an aggro type equipment. It's really cool. I'm not sure if we want to be putting all these aggressive equipments on our commander Helga, though. Because Helga doesn't really want to be attacking. Helga wants to be tapping for a bunch of mana to make our attackers. At least that's my vibe of Helga. If your dream of Helga is her attacking to get oodles and boodles of counters, that's valid, and you can do it with this thing. This thing is $12, though. That's a little pricey for me for that kind of effect. So I might proxy it for that price. The follow cards have a lot. Ethan, thank you so much for making the jump on over to Twitch. I appreciate you. All right, I have to grab my Twitch link, and that way we can share the link. Crap. Search first, we gotta do that. Stream. Stream manager. Crap. All right, we're just gonna keep going. Looking crisp. I know, right? It's I've never been crisper, Ethan. I just figured out how to work my new webcam. It's got a manual lens and everything. It's very cool. If y'all want to check that out, TikTok people, head on over to Twitch. Nice commander. Thank you, William Souza. I appreciate it. If you guys have any suggestions for our Helga deck, please put them in the comments, y'all. Tyler Johnson, good to see you again. Just joining. Has Vigor? No, Vigor has not been suggested. Vigor is a frustrating green card. Vigor is a really good creature, but it can really grind out a game. It's $20, and it's honestly, it's really like it will win a game. It's somewhat unfun to play against, in my opinion. This 6-drop Elemental Incarnation that says trample, and if damage would be dealt to a creature you control, you prevent that damage and you slam that many +1/+1 counters on the creature instead. That's just better than indestructible. It just says damage. So it doesn't specify combat damage. So if like you're trying to wipe the board with a Blasphemous Act, this thing just makes everything +13/+13 with counters for a Blasphemous Act. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's straight up crazy. It's really frustrating to play against if you don't have a piece of removal for it, especially if you're a combat-focused playgroup. It is good. It's real good, but it's a must-answer card. If this is going up against you, you need to answer it, or you're gonna lose. Recon, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. Oh, and Lens, thank you guys so much for all stopping by. I appreciate it. We have moved the show on over to Twitch, so I really appreciate it. Do you guys see how crispy I am? I've never had a more defined outline in any content ever. I'm testing out my new webcam. So Recon says, Yasharn the Implacable Earth. Yasharn the Implacable Earth sounds green to me. Oh, this thing's a vibe. This thing's a vibe, especially if you have aristocrats opponents or people who want to be sacrificing things. I think this prevents sacrifices, right? Yeah, it says players can't pay life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. And when this thing enters the battlefield, you search your library for a basic forest card and a basic plains, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So it's great. It's a 4-drop. It's got an ETB. It finds some basics. It puts them in your hand. It's great. It's a little bit of card advantage. You are drawing 2 lands. If you just said enter, draw 2 lands, it sounds a lot better than it reads. This thing's also really cool. It is a stacks piece. It's a 70-cent stacks piece, but the art is so rad on it. It's very cool. Thank you very much for the follow, Conrad, over on TikTok. I appreciate it. So, everybody viewing, I am Bigger Gayer Magic. I use green screen effects to make silly little Magic the Gathering content on TikTok and other places. And on live, we do community deck building. Tonight, we are building Helga, the Skittish Seer. It's a Bant creature deck. We want to be casting 4-drop creatures or more. And yeah, we're going to slam some counters on her commander, and we're going to be able to make her tap for even more mana. Come on, Essica's Chariot. Where are you at? Essica's Chariot. Okay, Essica's Chariot is a 4-drop legendary green artifact vehicle. 4/4 for crew 4. And when this thing enters the battlefield, we make ourselves 2/2/2 cats. And whenever Essica's Chariot attacks, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. That thing's great. It's going to make some very spicy tokens. It's a 4-drop. Unfortunately, it's not a creature spell, so it won't trigger Helga. But it can make those 2 cats. The cats can crew it. And whenever this thing attacks, it can make a copy of something really, really spicy. Because we can really slam anything we want into this here Helga deck. Because we just want to get those cast triggers. It's a good time, y'all. I like it a lot. It makes complex tokens. Alright, I gotta post on Discord. I haven't told the Discord homies what's up. Check this one. William Souza, thank you so much for the Essica's Chariot suggestion. Alright, Alexander Graham. Good to see you, Alexander Graham. Alexander Graham over on TikTok says Ivy Lane Denizen. Ivy Lane Denizen. We've seen this thing quite a few times. It's a weird little common, but it's really good. It's even playable in Commander for a common. It's 40 cents, and whenever another green creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Let's talk about it. This thing is great if we're making a bunch of guys. It's going to plop down a bunch of counters and have a bunch of triggers, which is significant, especially for our commander, Helga. I'm going to point on it on TikTok, and I'm going to point at it in Twitch. Helga likes counters. The more counters that we have on Helga, the more mana that our Helga will tap for. And if we can tap for a bunch of mana, we can slam down a bunch of creatures, get more Helga triggers, draw more cards, gain more life, put more counters on Helga. So this Ivy Lane Denizen, this little 35-cent common, is excellent. Especially if most of the creatures in our Helga deck are skewing green. Very cool little card. Very synergistic little common. Very good suggestion. Hey, Dark Ronin, thank you so much for stopping by on Twitch. Hey, everybody. The show has moved to Twitch because Twitch is not getting banned, as far as I know. So if you guys want to continue live deck building with me after the ban, please make the migration on over to Twitch from TikTok. You can also help me in my quest to get more Twitch followers than Rip Pull Repeat. Here's Wargate. It's a Bant sorcery, and it takes at least 4 mana, because you gotta pay the pips and an X. Search your library for a permanent card with mana value X or less, slam it onto the battlefield, shuffle your library. I like this. So if we have a really, if we have a hard plan, right? Like, we have something we really want to do with our Helga deck, this can find us that very specific permanent, slam it on the battlefield for us. Very cool card. It's Wargate, it's $5. I've never seen this thing before. This thing is crazy. Okay, it's any permanent, really. So if we want to get, like, a planner bridge, or if we want to slam down a problematic planeswalker with this thing, we can just do that. This is sick. I've never seen this before. I know it's not a creature, but I suffer so much with enchants and artifacts. My group have no opinion, but Fracturing Gust. Let's talk about Fracturing Gust. We need to play removal, y'all. We gotta be playing removal, or we're just gonna lose. Okay, Fracturing Dust is a 5-mana Selesnya instant with 3 hybrid pips. Destroy all artifacts and enchantments. You gain 2 life for each permanent destroyed this way. I love this. I love this unironically. I love that it's an instant. It's 5 mana, and it's a wipe for artifacts and enchantments. With our Helga board, with our Helga build, Helga just cares about creatures. We can run enchantment and artifact creatures, but this thing's an excellent board wipe, and it's instant speed, it's $3, it's 5 mana. I like it a lot, actually. Lenser DS, thank you very much for the suggestion, Lenser. This is a vibe. I like this a lot. And if we're in a creature-focused build, it's one-sided. Very cool. All right. Oh, Voidless Void with the Aura Shards. Aura Shards. Her mana can cast it because it has the... Wait. So unfortunately, because of Helga's wording, it says creature spells with X. So unfortunately, that Wargate wouldn't work because it does say creatures. Also, if you, over here on TikTok, if you guys want to see me point at specific words on cards with my green screen effects and my fancy, stupid new webcam, please make the migration on over to Twitch. Let's talk about Aura Shards and how upset it makes me and our friends. This thing's amazing. It's objectively an excellent card, and it will help you win a game, but it is a difficult card to play against because it's a 3-mana Selesnya enchantment, and it says whenever a creature comes into play under our control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. You may. You have a bunch of creatures enter, you get a destroy target thing. This thing's hardcore. This thing is really, really, really good, but it's really upsetting for your opponents because you can just slam down a bunch of creatures, have a bunch of removal. It's insane. And nowadays, we even have enchantment lands, we have artifact lands, we have enchantments that are artifacts. This thing hits a lot of stuff. Especially with Duskmourn that came out. There were a ton of enchantment creatures that came out in Duskmourn. This thing could blow them all up. This thing's crazy. Beware, though. It will make people upset, but it's really good. It's $12. Recommend a proxy. Aura Shards is so OP. It is so OP. Gyre Sage. Gyre Sage, excuse me, not Aura Shards. We're going to talk about Aura Shards for one more second. Aura Shards is one of those cards in a commander game where if it's being played against you and they're able to really utilize it, you're gonna lose if you can't get rid of it. It's just one of those things. It gets rid of all your value pieces. It's hardcore. Gyre Sage is a $5 2-mana dork with Evolve. And Evolve is an ETB trigger that says whenever a creature with greater power enters, you can slam a counter on this creature. And we want to put a bunch of counters on Gyre Sage, because Gyre Sage says, tap, add green to your mana pool for each +1/+1 counter on Gyre Sage. Gyre Sage is another big mana card, a lot like Helga, and it gets bigger in the same way by putting counters on them. It's a good time. It's great in this deck. It's $5. This card used to be like bulk, if I'm not mistaken, but there have been a lot of +1/+1 counter decks that have come out since this thing did, and it hasn't seen a lot of reprints. I don't think they gave it a reprint in Ravnica Remastered. All right, cool suggestion. Inferno, thank you so much for stopping on by at Twitch. I appreciate it. Okay, Voidless says Lily Bowen. Lily Bowen. All right. We didn't spell that correctly. Lily Bowen is okay. We got Lily Bowen. This is a Fallout character. Lily was a companion in Fallout New Vegas, and she's the best grandma. And the best grandma is a 4-drop legendary mutant warrior with vigilance. It's a 0/0. And it says when it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters, and you get an upkeep trigger to double the number of counters on Lily. If its power is 16 or less, otherwise, remove all but 1 counter from it, then you gain 1 life for each one counter removed this way. So, the story about Lily and the best grandma in Fallout New Vegas is that she had Alzheimer's. So the way they reflected this on this card is that once she reaches a certain power level, she goes back to 1 to reflect Alzheimer's. That's some really, really good card design, but it does make me sad. It's cool. It's a card. It cares about +1/+1 counters because it does have that stipulation that once it hits 16, it just gains you a bunch of life and she gets small again. It's cool. It's a vibe. It's a 4-mana creature and it triggers Helga, and I like that a lot. It cares about +1/+1 counters, making it synergistic with a bunch of the other +1/+1 counter cards that we already have in our Helga build. So it's actually quite a vibe. It is a green +1/+1 counter card, so it also triggers Ivy Lane Denizen, which we saw about 10 minutes ago. We vibe. It's also a budget card at 50 cents. Rye the Fry Guy over on TikTok is asking about Goreclaw. Goreclaw is a rad little card. So I'm not a judge, guys, so I'm not sure. So Goreclaw has this little cost reduction effect that says creatures you control with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. So if the cost reduction is if the cost reduction of Goreclaw makes the casting cost less than 4, I don't think those trigger Helga anymore. But we'll be able to get more of them because it is ramp. It also has an attack trigger that each creature control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. It's great. It's a great way to give your board trample. It itself is a 4/3. It's a green creature. It gives cost reduction. We vibe. We vibe hard. In regards to Goreclaw, though, this $9 6-drop legendary human bear, Trampley 6/5, says other permanents you control have trample, and whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, slam a +1/+1 counter on it and give it haste. This 6-drop legendary green creature gives everything trample and also haste on a single guy. Sarkhan and Goreclaw are OP as hell, y'all. This thing came out in March of the Machines. It's getting pricier all the time. It's $9 now. It started off as a bulk rare. Thank you very much for the follow, Don't Tell Smith. I appreciate it. Hey, everybody, I'm Bigger Gayer Magic. I use green screen effects to make silly little Magic the Gathering videos on a bunch of platforms. And we used to do live deck building over on TikTok, but we've made the switch over to Twitch. So if you want to see me on a not shitty camera with not shitty effects, sorry about that, TikTok, head on over to Twitch, and you can come join everyone who will hang out with me post-ban. Danny Pink is our next suggestion. It's Jay Did This over on Twitch is suggesting a Danny Pink. And it's an $8 4-mana mono blue legendary human soldier advisor from Doctor Who. He's a 4/3. I didn't watch Doctor Who this far. I don't know what season he's from. He has Mentor, which means whenever this creature attacks, slam a +1/+1 counter on a target creature with lesser power if it's attacking. Creatures you control with whenever one creatures you control have whenever one or more counters are put on this creature for the first time each turn. Draw a card. 10 out of 10 would recommend. This is insane. Okay, so let's talk about it. So our commander, Helga, if you're over here, it's on my right on TikTok, and if you're over here on Twitch, the good place, it's on my left. So Helga has a trigger to slam counters on her when we cast creature spells with mana value 4 or greater. This thing's amazing because it'll draw us an additional card, and it'll just let us keep going. It also gives it board wide. And because we are doing +1/+1 counters across the board, it seems, most of the suggestions we've seen tonight are +1/+1 counters. And if you want to see those suggestions, y'all can check out the Moxfield page in the link tree. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. Yeah, so this is a great vibe. I normally universally hate on the Doctor Who cards, but this one's really good, actually. I like it a lot. That's probably why it's $8. It's real cool, y'all. I think I saw Veggie Wagon make a video about this recently. Yeah, it's kind of like... Oh, that's right. He was comparing it to Nadu. It is a little bit like Nadu, but not game-breaking and making me sad. Hero's Bane is a must. Hero's Bane. Hero's Bane is that Hydro, right? EDH Vibin, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me on Twitch. I appreciate it. Mana value not costing costs, so that Goreclaw reduction wouldn't affect it. Thank you, EDH Vibin. I appreciate it. Hero's Bane is our next suggestion, and it's from Void, longtime friend of the channel. Void's been deck building with me a while. Hero's Bane is a Hydra, right? Why didn't it come up when I put Hero's Bane? Oh, is it like the EO of spelling of heroes? Is it the weird spelling of heroes? I don't know. Hero's Bane is a Hydra, and it gets a bunch of counters. I'm sorry, it's not coming up. HER, and I'm sorry, Hero's Bane isn't coming up. I don't know what's wrong with it. Vorel of the Wholeclad, that'll come up. Vorel is rad. Have you guys seen the new Zimone that's just 2 Vorels of the Wholeclad stapled together? It came out... When did it come out? It came out in Foundations. It came out just in Foundations, and it's 2 of these things stapled together. Vorel is the OG. He's a 3-mana Simic Merfolk human with an activated ability to pay 2 and double the number of each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, or land. It's amazing. It doubles the counters. It simply was the Simic +1/+1 commander for a long time. But this Zimone, we gotta talk about Zimone. Zimone is 2 of these things stapled together. I don't know how many times I'm gonna say that tonight. But I love it. It's the silliest thing. It is the silliest thing. Yes, this thing. It even has an upkeep trigger, right? So at the beginning of, oh no, not an upkeep, it has a combat trigger. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on 2 of your creatures. That's great in and of itself. For a long time, Simic decks struggled to get that first counter to keep doubling them. This thing's amazing. It also has the activated ability for 2 mana, double the number of each kind of counters on up to 2 target creatures and or artifacts that you control. It's 2 Vorals stapled together, y'all. It's amazing. It's $1.50, and I love it. It's 2 Vorals... It's so great. I'm really glad this got printed. It's so silly, and it gives you that little combat trigger to get that first counter. It's great. I love it. I think it's a great piece of game design. Alexander Graham says Secret Arcade. Secret Arcade. Hey, everybody over on TikTok. If you want to come join me over on Twitch, where we are not being banned, that I know of, please make that switch if you enjoy doing live deck building with me. If you don't, if you want to ride down the ship with me over on TikTok and not make the jump, I still appreciate you being here. This is Secret Arcade. It's a 5-mana room with non-land permanents you control, and permanent spells you control are enchantments in addition to their other types, so they make everything enchantments. I'm initially suspect. Whenever something says it makes everything a type, like it makes everything artifacts or it makes everything enchantments, usually your opponents are about to take everything or destroy everything. The other half is 3 mana and says whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to that spell's mana value on up to 1 target creature. This is great. So we could really lean into a enchantment creature matters deck with Helga if we wanted to. We are in the correct colors for it. This thing's cool. If we do find ourselves with an abundance of enchantment, this room could be really cool. And over here on the 5-mana side, yeah, it makes everything enchantments. That's great. So even if we're not leaning into enchantments, we can use the 5 mana side to make everything enchantments anyway, and just use the white side to slam a bunch of counters everywhere. This is actually quite a vibe. A lot of these Duskmourn room cards are really, really good, y'all. And, like, I love how there's, like, a room for each archetype. My favorite Duskmourn room is the Aristocrats room, the Funeral room that has the Mass Recursion spell on the 7 mana side. That's my favorite room. Pup Maestro! Pup Maestro, longtime friend of live deck building. Thank you. Good to see you, my friend, over on TikTok. Benevolent Hydra. Benevolent Hydra. That's not the word I expect to appear after Benevolent. Benevolent Hydra is a X-green Hydra. It's $18, well within proxy territory for me. And it enters the battlefield with X counters on it. And if one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on another creature you control, that many +1 are put on instead. It's got hardened scales on it. It's a Hydra with hardened scales stapled to it. It's also got an activated ability. We're going to tap it. We're going to remove a +1/+1 counter from it. Put a counter on another target creature. Except when we do this, we're actually putting 2 counters because it's got that hardened scales effect on it. I love that they're putting hardened scales effects onto other creatures and other things now. Like the Kami of Whispered Hopes is one of my favorite mana dorks of all times. The Ozolith that they printed in March of the Machines has hardened scales on it, and it has an activated ability like this to put counters places. It's really good, y'all. It's $18. I'm kind of curious why it's $18. Maybe it's because it's from a Jumpstart set. Maybe it's like scarcity. Did you guys see how much some of the new Jumpstart cards are climbing to from Foundations? Because of scarcity, it's crazy. Hero's Bane is the right spelling. Quilled Great Worm. It doesn't trigger held. Oh, it doesn't trigger held up. My bad. Quilled Great Worm. Quilled Great Worm. Quilled Great Worm is a 6 mana, $8 mythic green worm that says trample 7/7. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to you during your turn, put that many counters on it. 10 out of 10. This thing's going to slam counters everywhere. It's going to do a lot of work for us. And you may cast the card from your graveyard by removing 6 counters from among creatures you control, in addition to paying its other costs. This thing's amazing, actually. This thing's amazing. You may cast this card from your graveyard by removing counters from your creatures. This thing's great. This thing's really good. It's got a rad art. Okay, well, yeah, it's... When your creatures deal combat damage, they get a bunch of counters. It's almost like it's doubling their power. A longtime pet card is Grun, the Lonely King. I know Grun. Grun is the OG... Oh, no, I didn't know Grun. My mistake. I don't know Grun at all. Excuse me. Grun is a legendary 6 mana 8 warrior from Dominaria. It's got kicker 3. If it was kicked, it enters with 5 +1/+1 counters on it. So if you pay 9 mana, you get this thing, and it's a 10/10. And whenever it attacks by itself, you double the number of counters on it. So if you can get this thing kicked for 9 mana, you find a way to attack with it, you're attacking with a 20/20. And it's a 20/20 gorilla, and that's quite fun. Have you ever attacked anybody with a big monkey? I haven't. I have a few of these living in a binder, and I tried to run him. But if I'm being honest with you guys, I never really got him to go off because 9 mana's a lot. The Real Hi-Hi, good to see you, The Real Hi-Hi. Also, it was fun playing it, but I still have a chip on my shoulder from it. Yeah, well, I actually got to play a spell table game with Hi yesterday, and I died first. And that's what I get for playing with my Discord. You pump Metastatic I like Metastatic Evangel. Metastatic Evangel is actually awesome. Metastatic Evangel is 2-drop from Modern Horizons 3. It's a white card, it's 40 cents, and it's amazing. It is the truth. Who suggested this? Lunar Leam! Excellent suggestion, Lunar Leam. I love this card. I love this card a lot. It's a 2-mana Phyrexian Human Cleric. It's a 3/1. And it says, whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate. Proliferating is great to have on an ETB trigger for non-token stuff, because our commander Helga over here says whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card, slam a counter on Helga, and you gain 1 life. And Helga taps for mana equal to its power for creatures. This thing is a great way to have Helga get 2 counters whenever you cast a big spell. It's great, y'all. And because we have so many +1/+1 counter synergies throughout the deck itself, this thing can proliferate the counters on all our other stuff as well. This thing's really great. I love this thing. It's 40 cents. The art is a vibe. You can see like the trail of like death from where the Phyrexians are crashing in. It's excellent. I love everything about this card. It's one of my favorites from MH3. It's so good. So good. Fractured Room. Fractured Room. Fractured Room is a 3-mana mono blue. When you unlock the store, you create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it's a reflection in addition to its other types. This thing's great. If we lean away from legendary creatures, we can make some spicy tokens with this thing. And over here on Fractured Room, we got a 7-mana side. If a triggered ability you control of a permanent would trigger, you just get an additional trigger. Triggers are things that say whenever, when, or if. This thing over here on Helga says whenever you cast into creature spell of mana value 4 or greater, you draw yourself a card, you gain yourself 1 life, and you slam a counter on Helga. That's a triggered ability. We got Fractured Room out with Helga. We're going to draw twice the cards, gaining twice the life, and slamming twice that many counters on Helga. It's going to be a vibe. This card's great, y'all. Almost in every single live deck tech since this thing got spoiled, everyone that's run blue, everyone's telling me to run this card. I might just have to buy me one of these. People are really hot on this card right now, and it's only $3. And that effect for 7 mana that just doubles all your triggers, it's real good, y'all. Dark Ronin 4 says Colonian Hydra. Colonian Hydra's amazing. I wonder... Oh, yeah, okay, I'm so glad this thing is only $9. This thing used to be like 40. This thing's crazy. It's one of the OG ways to start doubling your +1/+1 counters across the board. It's a Trampley 0/0 5-drop Hydra in mono green, and it says it enters with 4 +1/+1 counters, but when it attacks, it doubles the number of +1/+1 counters on all of your creatures. This thing's amazing. It's $9. It gets printed in Commander precons. I think it originally came out in the Atraxa precon. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It's amazing, y'all. It's great, especially if you have a wide board, you want to be casting multiple creatures, just like Helga does. It's great. It's so good in a Helga deck. It's aggressively priced in mana, too. Like, it's a 5-drop. And once we got Helga out, we're going to have enough mana to cast it. Even if this is the spell we cast immediately after casting Helga, it's still amazing. It's so good, y'all. It's so good. Also, spicy, it has trample already on it. Hardened Scales, the OG. The real high says Hardened Scales. Hardened Scales is a 1-mana mono green enchantment. And it says, if 1 or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1 are slammed down. Excuse me. If the way that you are putting counters on your creatures is 1 at a time, oftentimes Hardened Scales and effects like it, because we've seen this effect printed on quite a few creatures now, and some artifacts and enchantments besides Hardened Scales. This thing, if you're doing it in tiny little triggers like we are in Helga, Helga gets 1 counter per the large cast trigger. Hardened Scales can feel like doubling season if all your triggers only putting 1z, 2z counters on things. Hardened Scales really good. I'm going to show you guys a card a lot like Hardened Scales called the Kami of Whispered Hope. It's one of my favorite cards from March of the Machines. I think it's goated. It's $4. It's $4 for an uncommon. It's a spirit. It's a 1/1. It's 3 mana, and it says if it has Hardened Scales on it. The first effect is Hardened Scales on a triggered ability. The second effect is tap, add X mana of any one color, where X is the number. Excuse me, where X is its power. So even if you're not leaning into counters to make this thing big, you can still use other effects to make it big, and you're still going to reap the mana value off it, or reap the mana benefits off it, because it tasks for mana equal to its power. It's amazing. It's a lot like Helga in mono green without drawing us some cards or gaining us some life. It's amazing. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Even if you're not, it's so good, y'all. It's so good. Would recommend. Branching Evolution. Branching Evolution. Branching Evolution. I wonder if it's going to pull out the Fallout one. Nope. Okay, here's Branching Evolution. This is a 4-mana mono green enchantment. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, twice that counters are put there instead. It's great. It's $4. It's half a doubling season. It's the counter half a doubling season. And it's just us. It's not symmetrical. It's just helping us. It's great. $4. This is the version that was printed in the Caverns of Ixalan expansion a little over a year ago. It's great. It's $4. There is a Fallout version, and I'm pretty sure the Fallout version's pretty cheap too. And it's got like a mutated skin pig on it. Court of Garenbrig. Alright, everybody, I am Bigger Gare Magic. I use green screen effects to make silly little Magic the Gathering content wherever I'm posting content these days, post the TikTok ban. And I do live deck building. We're on live deck building. We talk about a commander. Tonight's commander is Helga. And if you have any card suggestions for our deck tech, if we talk about your suggestion that you're going to put in the comments, the card will be put on a Moxfield deck list, and you can check out all the cards we talk about on the Moxfield page. And if you want to suggest cards, we're going to vote on a poll tomorrow to see what deck we're going to build tomorrow night. And if you want to vote in that, that's in the Discord. Here's Court of Garenbrig. It's $20. It's 3 mana. It's a mono green enchantment. And when it enters the battlefield, we become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, you distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among up to 2 target creatures. Then, if you're the Monarch, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. This thing's great. Hi actually played it against us yesterday, and he was able to make his stuff pretty spicy. It's real good. It gives you an upkeep trigger to distribute the counters, so that's going to happen every turn. And then if you're the Monarch, you double the counters. It's great, y'all. Alright, guys, we are going to take a quick break, and I will be back in a few minutes. I hope to see you soon.